It is probable, my friends, that the liturgy of this day goes back to a very early date. There are traces of the catechumens actually in the liturgical prayers of this Holy Mass. Starting with the plea for light, they are down there, hidden down underground. And the prayers also are coming from the heart of the early church under pressure and heavy persecution. This week, I found myself in a point in Irish history which indirectly joins up with that. I was at Monaster Boyce, gazing at our past. And I was gazing at the gospel and salvation history chiselled in the High Cross of Abbot Murdoch, the big one which is still very well preserved. There is movement there. There is upward and downward movement. Only there, the downward movement is on the other side of time. And once again, my eye was caught by one of my brethren, one of your brethren, looking somewhat anxious. I would say very anxious. As nude and crude, he sat in the scales. And the devil, old Nick, is underneath, pulling as hard as he can. And that made me think of an exorcism I was present at one time, some years ago, when the person who was being exorcised was, of course, a mouthpiece for the same old Nick, who can't bear the touch of holy objects, particularly holy water, and a relic of the true cross. He's burned by it and screams and howls. And the dialogue went on. When are you going to go? You know it. In other words, he told him before. There was a date given. And on would go the tirade. And this dialogue was going on between this monk friend of mine who's now gone to his reward, not long ago actually. And one answer struck me from the mouth of the person, that is, coming from the jaws of down under. Emia! Which he repeated, she's mine! In other words, he was keen on having his pound of flesh. Someone who's slightly opened the door and let him in doesn't know how difficult he is once in, even with one foot, to dislodge. In Ireland, people are doing just that on a daily basis. Some of it actually is protected by parish structures and retreat centres. I mean different forms of syncretistic religion called globally New Age. Do you know that some of the worst are some of the most common? Reiki is one of the worst. If done completely, it involves a person who is fully initiated as a master, and in that process has become opened, all the chakras freed, allowing the demons, they don't know it, but these angels, these spirits, who are actually fallen angels, to come in and to give, yes, healing at a price, that same pound of flesh, because the devil can also make ill so as to make better. He can ape his creator in many things, but the healing is only to have an apparent gain. And of course then, you know what happens. it all starts to go wrong, and they end up in big trouble down the line. Now, when I was looking at this cross, and the others, there are three big ones there actually, there is a theme in them all. It's precisely this battle between light and dark, the up and the down. And yes, old Nick was always there, the experience of all mankind. And only a few kilometres away, closer still actually to my hermitage, you've got what? Darkness being fought with the means they had before the illumination of the Incarnation. Newgrange, Douth and Nouth. And you've got there precisely the conquest of the light. People still come in their droves at the solstice to see this perfect aiming of the shaft through there and hitting those megalithic graves. The only thing is, they come and they wait and they wait. And there's not much sun this year, so they go away cheesed off. However, it is perfect. And it is a reminder that they too were trying their best to get at the light with the means that they had. The only thing was that they too, some of them, druids and whatnot, were in collusion with what they had found to be very interesting powers who had certain effects. Magic. The only thing was that they weren't fully aware where this energy was coming from. It's still there in darkest Africa. And having lived with missionaries in Rome, it's interesting because they will tell you what happened down there when it came to a hand-to-hand combat with animism and the first evangelization driving out old Nick from what belonged to him from the beginning of time. It's big stuff, handling old Nick. Hitherto, in the Middle Ages, it was quite dramatic. People globally tried to stay in grace. It was like that too until fairly recently in Ireland. Now, there's something very subtle going on. Old Nick is coming out into the open, but also stealthily underground, combining bits of good and bad, Catholic and not quite so Catholic, so as to infiltrate even the enemy, which is God for him, by acting against him from within, and also now getting at the less well-formed Catholics, that is the majority by now in Ireland, using the media. He is conquering Ireland through the media, and don't be taken in. He's massively present in the media. Therefore, when we have our top notches able to get their way, it's precisely because there's a hugely orchestrated machine backing them up, but from down under. Let's get this clear, my friends. They haven't got the last word. And each one of these politicians has to end up in that balance, in that scales, nude and crude, and in that same anxious position, waiting to know, is it up or down, up or down? And old Nick is underneath pulling hard. You've been doing my work. Yes, I've got you. I'm not saying that's the case. I hope it's not. But it could be. Because you can't be a Catholic and meddle with old Nick. It just doesn't work. And here's your man, nude and crude. There we are, the soul empty before all eternity. And all the standing crosses of Ireland end up in this cosmic moment. Calvary in the midst and going up or down underneath. Here we are, Christ in some old manuscript, the supreme judge who has the last word, not RTE. And here we have those who made it, rows and rows with palms in their hand, all the saints of Ireland, dotted around our country in the form of ruins and graves and sanctuaries. And right next, we've got the other direction, going down. And here, in the manuscript, you've got old Nick as a gigantic jaw, gobbling up these nude and crude souls, who henceforth have heard the sentence and have gone down. I have a lot to do with little students who are right now heading for not the last judgment, but the immediate one of junior cert and leaving cert. They want prayer. And when you come out of an exam, you go into, don't you, a post-mortem with other students, all the blunders that you've made. And then sometimes it hits you, doesn't you? All the things you could have done better. And you wonder, will you actually get the result? But then, in the back of your mind, you've got what? There's always the resit. There's always the resit. But your man in the scales has no resit, my friends. And that man is you and me. It's yes or no, up or down. And once the direction is taken, it's taken forever and ever and ever. So I leave you with this, my friends. Either way, next time you look at an old cross, remember the nude and crude that you are, waiting for the moment of truth. Either way, meditating on the soul in the scales on the high cross. Monaster boys. To sleep and rest a while, to peep and know the knowing of the all, that hence shall call from unleashed aeons, whereon all must flow upon a tide of merit, great or small. To sleep, I say, and open wide these eyes, long fastened to the glister of an hour. To sleep and peep beyond these western skies, into a land whereon no hand hath power. This is the yell that telling made of stone within this balance lies. Here dies the noise of all that cannot aid. Here, stark alone, the nude and crude inspector stands in poise upon a scale weighed on air-burned days, that tip may either way, for aye to blaze.